Hey guys, my name's Sophia. Today I'm doing my October wrap-up and the last book for this year's Booktober. So let's get started. So I read a total of 8 books at the time of filming this. I am filming this a little bit early, so I might have read a few more books before the actual end of the month, but I'm pretty sure these 8 are going to be the only 8 I actually read. So let's get into all the books. So the first book that I read was Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. This was a reread for me as I had to read it for one of my classes at school. I love this book. It was a 5-star read before rereading it. It's a 5-star read afterwards. I absolutely adore this book. If you don't know, Jane Eyre follows the character of Jane Eyre and her journey through life up until she meets a man named Rochester, and then her life kind of gets a little bit crazy. But yeah, it's so good. Absolutely love it. Classic Victorian Gothic novel. There we go. The next book that I read was Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This is the first book in the spin-off series from the Caraval series. This one follows, I believe you pronounce her name Evangeline, I think. Sorry if you can hear my dog. As well as the character Jax, who we meet in the Caraval series. I really enjoyed this book. I think it's a solid start to a new series, and I'm very excited to see what Stephanie Garber does with these characters. I will say I didn't love it as much as I loved Caraval. However, I'm gonna keep going with it, and hopefully the second book gets a little bit better. With that being said, I did give it 4 out of 5 stars, so it was still a really good read. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing how the rest of the series turns out. So there we go. So my next book is one I wasn't expecting to love as much as I did, and that is The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. This is a paranormal YA book that follows a school of witches where each witch has elemental powers based on the season that they're a witch of. So 4 seasons, 4 different types of witches, except for our main character. She is called an Everwitch, and she is able to control all 4 seasons magic at any time of the year. This follows her dealing with the fact that she is an Everwitch and has like higher, I don't want to say priorities, like higher expectations set upon her, and how she's been struggling to meet them due to an accident that occurred the year prior. I really loved this book. It was a fun, fast-paced, witchy read that I wasn't looking for, but I'm glad that I got, and I'm definitely going to be reading more of Rachel Griffin's books, especially if they're about witches, because I think she writes about them in a super realistic way despite them having unrealistic powers. So yeah, this one was 4.5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. Next I have Dark and Shallow Lies by Jenny Myers Sain. This is a YA thriller set in a small town in Louisiana. We follow a character who she is coming back to her small town that she usually visits during the summer after the disappearance of one of her best friends, and her and all the other kids who live in this town are trying to figure out what actually happened to her, if this friend's dead or not, etc. There are multiple mysteries throughout this thriller. I really did love it. There is a little bit of a paranormal hint to it, but it isn't like Nature of Witches, which is fully paranormal. No, it's more of a, could this be a paranormal encounter, or is it actually just someone murdered this person? So I really enjoyed this. I think it was a really fun YA. It was super fast paced. I did not want to put this down because I needed the answers, and I love that in thrillers. So yeah, this one met all my expectations for thrillers, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I did want more clarification in the ending, but that's okay. That was my only big gripe with this book. So moving on. Next I have a book that I have been wanting to finish for forever, and I finally did. I finished the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slang Vampires by Grady Hendrix, and I didn't love it. I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars because the parts that were horror based were super creepy. I was getting grossed out. It was just, oh, it was done so well. However, I will say the title says that it's the Guide to Slaying Vampires. However, the characters in this book don't know that the person who's a vampire is actually a vampire until like halfway to like 75% of the way through. So it's just like you're waiting for them to make the realization that he's not human, and it just doesn't click for so long, and I think that's part of the reason why I kept putting this down, because you know what's happening, it's obvious who's doing it, and it's just, that's my big thing, is I'm like, you know what's going on, but this person, like, the characters are taking too long to come to the same conclusions that the reader already has. So that's why I gave it 3.5. I also gave another Grady Hendrix book I've read 3 or 3.5 stars, so I don't know if he's the greatest author for me. I'm willing to give one more book, his most recent book, a try, and if it's the same thing, I think I'm gonna have to shelve his books in terms of me reading them. So yeah, 3.5 stars. It was okay. I just really wanted to finish it, and I did. So there we go. This is a fast wrap up, but that's okay. Next, I have a little bit of a lighter read to break up all the classics and all the horror. That is the X Hex by Erin Sterling. This is a adult romance that focuses on witches. It follows our main character, what is her name? Vivian. Our main character, Vivian, who she jokingly 9 years ago put a curse on her ex after she found out he was like betrothed to someone. They're both witches, and so 9 years later he comes back to this town for one of their festivals near Halloween, and they find out that this curse that she jokingly put on him is actually real and affects him when he comes back to town. So they are forced to work together to figure out how to end this curse. So it's a second chance romance. I thought it was really cute, really well done. My one big thing, which I mentioned in another video, was a lot of the character names are ACOTAR characters. Like literally the main guy in here, his name is Reese, spelled R-H-Y, like the exact same spelling. There's Gwen in here. There's Vivian, I think, is also a name of someone in ACOTAR. Like Elaine is a name in here. It was just wild to see these names, but it was still a really fun read. That was my biggest thing, was I was like, I keep picturing these characters, not what they look like in this book, but what they look like in ACOTAR, which could totally just be a me thing, but I also think it's due to how many of the names were there. But it's okay. Overall, I give this 4 out of 5 stars. It was a really cute Halloween romance that just was the greatest palette cleanser that I could have had this month. So there we go. Next is a book I absolutely loved, and that is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I read this for school. It's my first time reading this. Staple, gothic, classic. Yeah, Picture of Dorian Gray. Loved it, read it for class, gothic staple. It was just so good. Oh my goodness, the writing was terrific. Oh my god, the writing was phenomenal. The characters were so great. I cannot wait to write a paper about this. I hardly ever say that because I don't like writing papers, despite being an English major. This was so good. 5 out of 5 stars, 10 out of 10 stars. I loved it. There we go. Last but certainly not least, I read The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter. This is a collection of short stories that are fairy tale reimaginings. So there's reimaginings of the Red Riding Hood, Bluebeard, that was my dog dropping her bone, Beauty and the Beast, Puss in Boots is retelling in here, all sorts of things. I really liked a lot of these. Some of them I wasn't too keen on, but most of them I really did enjoy. And I gave this collection 4.5. Whoa, that's a paper. So I gave this collection 4.5 out of 5 stars because I did really enjoy most of these stories. And I think they were just the right amount of gruesome mixed with like feminist ideals in them, in at least some of them. So yeah, this was really fun. I love these reimaginings. I do think The Bloody Chamber and The Snow Child were my 2 favorite ones, if you have read this collection. So there we go. Alright guys, so that was my October TBR. My October wrap up. Thank you guys so much for watching and joining me for my 13 days of Booktober. I know my video releases got very like back to back this past week, but I did the best I could while being in midterm. So thank you guys for joining me for Booktober, and if you would like, don't forget to check out any links in the description bar below, as well as liking this video and subscribing if you want to see more, and I will see you guys next time for a new video soon. Bye guys.